State of the program, Kansas Jayhawks edition. The bluest of blue bloods, one of the, if not the, premier program in college basketball. However, an interesting time in the history of Kansas basketball, I think. You've got a Hall of Fame head coach, just what, 4 years removed from a national championship? But vibes maybe in a weird spot with Kansas for the first time since I can recall in the Bill
Mhm.
Self era. It'll make an exercise like this very fun. Riley Davis is with me today. How this works, we have 5 categories. We each can grade Kansas basketball on from a scale of 1 to 10. Riley has 50 points to give out. I have 50 points to give out. If they grade out perfect score, they would get 100 points. It could go all the way down to 0. Spoiler alert, Kansas isn't going to score a 0, but we'll see where they stand relative to all of our other favorite programs in college basketball at the end of the video by adding our scores together. Our categories are returnees, departures, recruits, transfers, and vibes. I will explain each as we go through them, but we will start with category 1, Riley, and it is returnees. They get a 10 out of 10 if they return everything substantial. They get a 0 out of 10 if they return nothing of note. What are you going with for Kansas?
So I gave them a 6. And on the surface, I think that might sound a little bit bold or a little generous given what they lost. But I think you have Badunga, who he, in and of himself, I think gives you a baseline of a 5, honestly. Just bringing back a McDonald's All American, former top 10 recruit for his second year. I know he flirted with the portal and was quickly back to Lawrence. And I think he is the go to guy in the front court. Like he is going to have a ton of freedom to really see what he can do to see if he can take any strides offensively. I think that is probably among the biggest question marks facing the Jayhawks is can he be more than just a rebounding, rim protecting, lob catching extraordinaire. Like that's great. I love him in that role. At the end of the day, though, there still is some size limitations with him being 6'8", 6'9". I know he's got the long wingspan, but would like to see him develop either some passing chops or just the ability to hit a shot outside of the paint. So we'll see how much he develops there, but still, I think he is a very high floor player, just what he's giving you with rebounding and defense. But then beyond him, I'm kind of a Bryson Tiller guy, G. Like I still am holding on to some stock from him. I know that he redshirted last year and dealt with the injury and is sort of the forgotten guy when you look at this front court, but he dunks everything. He's a dog on the glass, and he, unlike Badunga, has shown, or I guess I should say, showed at the high school level some skill, like the ability to make reads at the top of the key, to play out of the short roll. And also, I think there's a semblance of a three-point shot there. Beyond him, you're looking at Jamari McDowell. Don't really know if he's going to play a role. But then you also have El Marco Jackson coming back from injury. And I wouldn't say I'm as optimistic on him as Tiller, but I don't hate that, one of your bench guards is another former McDonald's All-American who at one point was known for that explosive first step, the defense, the long wingspan, all of that. So I think all in all, I feel like a 6 is pretty fair.
Might depend on where you put Tiller. If you consider Tiller a returnee, even though he hasn't played a minute live basketball for Kansas yet, then that might boost the score up a little bit. This also could just be an introduction. This is the first one you and I are doing together of how we individually are going to grade on different scales a little bit. That's totally fine, and we want it to go that way. I think this is probably the most barren group of returnees that we're going to see from any team in this exercise. I mean, I'm going through previous scores of other videos I've done. I gave a 6 to North Carolina, or Dion gave a 6 to North Carolina for their returnees. Seth Trimble's a proven starter that's very good. I gave a 6 to Illinois. Tom Ivisic and Kylan Boswell are like all conference level potential guys. I can't imagine we get to that with Kansas here. They're three returnees to me: El Marco, Bedunga, and Jamari McDowell. And I guess if you want to add Tiller, that's four. They combined to average 12 points and 8 rebounds a game last year. They are bringing back 12 points and 8 rebounds a game from a team that was not all that good. That they're basically bringing back Jackson Kohler from 4 guys combined.
Okay, that is that
Um, it's just, and
that
look, they're going to grade positively in other categories for me, but this is like nothing. I'm not going to give them a 1 because getting Badunga back matters, right? It would be a 1 if Badunga was nothing. Badunga could be an all Big 12 player. His production will match opportunity and be higher. But I can't go higher than a 2 here just because
Oh,
there's no production, man.
that feels so harsh. When Dion, so I did the UNC video with Dion. I gave UNC a 3. He gave UNC a 6 for Seth Trimble alone. I think if Seth Trimble's worthy of a 6, but Dunga's got to be worthy of a 5. That was, again, he was my baseline. I counted Tiller. I like Tiller. El
Well, I guess
Marco was,
if I was on the Carolina video, they would have had less than a 6 from me. But yeah,
I
I
would,
just they have no proven starters.
but Badunga was really good last year. He was like one of the few bright spots on that Kansas team
I
that
I like
underachieved.
Badunga. I do, but I like if we're going team by team through this exercise, they're the only one that we've done so far that returns 0 starters. Like that, maybe they'll get points when we get to the portal section or other things, but like this isn't last year when they brought back Dickinson and Adams and Dewan. And I know they're happy that they're starting fresh, but in terms of returning production, I think Kansas is the lowest on the list right now. And that says something about where they're at as a program. So we can disagree on it. That's perfectly okay. You're giving them a 6. I'm giving them a 2. Let's move on. Maybe we'll agree on the next one. Departures. You get a 10 out of 10 if you're not losing anything of note. You're getting a 0 out of 10 if you're losing everything of note. This kind of does correlate with what you think of the returnees. Kansas loses a lot in terms of quantity. Gone from this program are Hunter Dickinson, DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, Zeke Mayo, Rylan Griffin, AJ Storr, Rakese Passmore, Noah Shelby, Diggy Coit, Zach Clements, Shaquille Moore. It's 11 guys. It's a lot. It's their entire team in terms of production minus Flory Badunga. However, Kansas fans would probably argue they wanted to lose a lot of these guys. So let's see what Riley Davis is going with.
See, that's exactly why I gave them a 5. It's always tough when we did this last year. I'm running into it this year where I'm like, yeah, you lost pretty much everybody, but you wanted a reset, so I can't ding you too much. At the end of the day, Hunter Dickinson, I know that he didn't lead to that March success. He was really productive, so you take away some points there, take away some points for DeJuan Harris because he is a national champion, and you want to give respect to the point guard and leader over the past 4 years. Zeke Mayo had some moments a little up and down, but I would say generally a positive for this team last year. But after that, if I was a Kansas fan, I'm not losing sleep over losing Storr, Griffin, Coit, Shaquille Moore. Maybe Rakese Passmore you're a little sad about because of the upside there, but overall, I just gave him a 5. It's like, yeah, you lost some productive guys. You lost someone in Harris who was a program staple, but after the past 2 years now, you probably want a reset and get some new blood in there. So yeah, 5 feels like a middle of the road grade for sort of where they're at right now.
I am going with a 3, and I think this tracks with how we graded the first category. Again, different opinions are totally fine. Kansas is going to score higher in future categories for me. But just the way my brain works on this, like some programs are thriving in certain areas and not thriving in others. I think this is a true statement about how I feel about what Bill Self has done with last year's roster and this year's roster. Last year's team was more talented than this year's team. Outside of Darren Peterson, who's sensational, I think pretty much at every other spot, they are replacing a good individual player with a worse option. Now, will that add together to a puzzle that's a better basketball team? It's very possible, especially if Darren Peterson is special. They're going to grade very highly on recruiting. But like AJ Storr's a good player, and Bill Self got nothing from him. Rylan Griffin's a good player, got nothing from him. Both those guys are playing college basketball elsewhere this year. To me, that's disappointing. If this program was high functioning in terms of portal right now, I think those guys are back for year 2, and you're not happy to get rid of them. So, like, it's hard for me to give points when colossal failures have happened with talented players that have been good elsewhere. Rylan Griffin gave great minutes to Alabama. AJ Storr gave great minutes to Wisconsin. Dickinson's good. Dickinson caught a lot of the blame for Kansas's issues the last couple of years. He's good. I mean, he's a walking double-double, and you couldn't win with a walking double-double. I do think there's going to be a breath of fresh air moving on from DeJuan and KJ Adams. Those are just guys that don't fit archetypes that I like. but there's a ton of talented players that are being replaced by less talented players that have left this team. So I'm going to give them a 3. Honestly, I think that's boosted up from what I want to give them for what they've lost, but I can understand that for vibes purposes, you are taking a step forward, and I think that's a fair landing spot. Let's get to a category I'm going to grade them highly on, thank God. Recruits. 10 if you love their recruiting class and it's flawless. 1 if you are not impressed at all. What are you giving Kansas for recruits?
Yeah, you mentioned was that a that's a Beyonce that song that says you wake up flawless.
I don't know. I don't know that song.
Flawless. Isn't it called Flawless? I swear it's something like Flawless. When you said Flawless, that to me describes this recruiting class. I gave it a 10 pretty handedly because you have the stud with DP. Like he's getting comp to the best, or I mean, maybe not comp to Kyrie, but he's long been said the best guard prospect since Kyrie. I think the practice clips they've been churning out of him have only added to the hype. I'm enamored by his game because it's not just the size, the frame, the athleticism, the ability to get downhill and punch on somebody. I think he is such a good passer, and that largely gets overlooked because he's such a gifted scorer. But even after Peterson, they just brought in guys who fit well around him. Cole Rosario can play immediately, 3-and-D wing with the frame to hold up defensively. I think he's a dark horse to start for this team just because of the way that he can space the floor. And that is, I said that, the biggest questions for Kansas this year. I had Badunga and any offensive strides he can make at the top, but right beneath that is shooting. I think there are some guys around. I mean, you a lot of times freshmen don't shoot all that well, so Peterson could be like low to mid 30s. You need Rosario to hit, and I think if he does though, that's going to get him on the floor. If he's a high 30, low 40% shooter, then Paul Booya was how I learned how it's pronounced. Great backup big.
It's pronounced Booyah.
Paul Booya.
That's crazy. I love that.
But Booyah, I think Booyah and Rosario both like should be weapons in transition, and I expect with Peterson at the helm, this team's going to get up and down. And Rosario, whether it's catching a lob or just knocking down transition threes, will be valuable. Booyah obviously is a threat to dunk everything. And then Samus Calderon, probably didn't pronounce that right, but he like his calling card is going to be make plays in transition because he's another one of those long wings with a good frame and like spring loaded athleticism. So yeah, Peterson is clearly the stud here, but I like those other three as nice ancillary pieces as well.
Yep. I I think this has to be a 10. I am in agreement with you. It's a 10 largely because of Peterson. But what I will say is if it was just Peterson, it wouldn't be a 10. You've got to
Mhm.
have a little depth here. They do have depth. You just laid out nicely the reasons to believe in some of the less heralded members of this class. Cole Rosario, though, was huge. And while I've criticized some of the portal things they brought in, Cole Rosario was like a really great late ad that a lot of teams wanted that there's a lot of smoke is going to be way better than people expect immediately. And it also fits the archetype. Bill Self has had some of these kind of add in the summer freshman one and done wings that are big time athletes, 3-and-D types. You think Johnny Furphy even.
Mhm.
I think this is a pretty great fit with a pretty great player in Rosario. Peterson and Rosario alone, enough for me to give this team a 10. And in terms of impact, I would expect those two to be, if not the most impactful freshman duo in the sport, right up there with maybe some combo from Duke or elsewhere. Let's move to our fourth category here. It is transfers. So we are solely looking at incoming transfers. It's not about outgoing. We already did departures. So just who are they bringing in? It's a four-man class. Trey White from Illinois, Melvin Council from St. Bonaventure, Jaden Dawson from Loyola Chicago, and then I have no idea if I'm saying this player correct, but Naginyu Nagala, a
That sounds
Canadian
right.
transfer, 5'10" guard. I don't know much about Nagala. It really is a three-man group here that we expect to be in the rotation. Council, Dawson, White. I can't wait to hear what grade you went for here.
One, I think Agala is the kid who our guy Goodman said like 5'10 committed to Kansas University. Remember that tweet?
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure that was the one who was talking about, but I just gave him a 5. I'm a Jaden Dawson believer. Again, when you're just looking at pieces that fit around your star and Peterson and who gives some space for Badunga to work as well. The other three I see is just either non-factors like Ngala or just role players like Council and White. Council to me, I think he brings like that veteran defensive-minded presence, but the three-point shot is such a question mark that I think he really is going to have to shine as a ball handler who makes life easier on Peterson to see a big role and do well getting into the paint or getting to the free throw line or something to make up for the fact that defenses might try to shrink the court in lineups that he's there, especially if he's playing next to, I mean, White's three-point shooting has been up and down, but Dung is obviously not a threat there as well. White, I think, can be a fourth or a fifth option. We've seen him do that for a good team last year in Illinois. To me, I just can't get too many points for Trey White because, like, when you look at some of the foremen who have come through Kansas and who Self has succeeded with, it just leaves me wanting a little bit more, wanting a higher quality caliber of player. Like Trey White is a long way away from Jalen Wilson, to give an example of the last foreman that Self thrived with. So, yeah, not a bad player, but just I don't think he's quite to I would say Kansas starting level caliber.
Yeah, I think just point blank, Council, Dawson White, any of these guys, if they were in last year's transfer class, which was lauded as the best transfer class in the country with Griffin and Storr and Zeke Mayo, um, I think they would all be considered the fourth best player in the class. That's tough. It's tough for me to talk myself into this being a special group.
Mm-hmm.
Now, simultaneously, I think these guys are low maintenance. I really do. Although, are we sure? Because Trey White's a pretty high maintenance guy that has a lot of the same connotation issues as like an AJ Storr did. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was rumored to have been in the doghouse with Brad Underwood for the entire second half of the last year, pouting that he didn't have the role he wanted. So, like, there are some red flags here. I don't know enough about Council. I've loved everything I've heard from him, and he's a good player. Jaden Dawson, I know, was a great locker room guy and a good player at Loyola. The question with him is more talent and fit with Peterson. For me, I end up coming to a 6 for this, and I think it's a generous grade, but I think I graded them harshly in the first two categories. And I think this is where I can reward them just on maybe it being better to not have some star power. I think it will be a breath of fresh air for Bill Self to have a group of role players that he can maybe get to overachieve a little bit instead of underachieve. White, Council, and Dawson were all double-digit scorers in their last stops. It won't stun me if that happens again. And I'll buy, I guess, a little bit of outperforming expectation because if it was just name brand alone, this would have been a lower score for me for transfers. Final category is vibes, and if you can't tell, I'm really struggling with how to score vibes wise. I don't know if we had a Kansas fan on here if they would give it a 10 or a 0 with the vibes of their program right now. But what did you land on for vibes?
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's just those Kansas jerseys that always lure me in and make me think everything is going to be okay. And I am still a Bill Self believer, even late career Self. I think he's like counting him out right now, I think would be a mistake to where I still gave it an 8. This could be his last year. And I get the why you would rank them lower. I won't even really debate you. You could give him a 3, Greg, and I'd be like, yeah, I see where you're coming from. To me, though, my rebuttal would be Self isn't dead yet. Shoot, I didn't mean to joke around about that. No, he's had some. He is not retired yet. I should say, like he still can. I think get good production out of a team or even get a unit to a point where they're outperforming expectations. And beyond that, I just think with Peterson being in the fold and all the excitement he's bringing and the way that they are marketing him, the way that they are presenting him to the public, and I think a little bit of some of the transfer class that on the surface looks underwhelming. I'm not going to say it's all directly correlated to like Self was just trying to find guys who fit around Peterson. Like I think there is a chance that some of the money or even some of the allure to playing at Kansas could have waned in their after their past two seasons. But I don't think it's just that. I still think the coaching staff knew what it was doing and bringing in certain types of players who are going to fit around their star in the backcourt and the breakout candidate in the front court. So I'll go an 8. It's just because like the more I look at this roster too, I just see the framework for them to be really good defensively and really good in transition. And I think they're falling somewhere between 20 and 25th in the poll right now. Maybe they're like 17, somewhere in that range. I think they have a great shot to outperform that this year.
All right, I think that makes sense. So this is how I do vibes scores every time. Everybody gets a baseline 5, and then I start to mentally add or subtract for certain points. So this is where I landed on Kansas. Baseline 5. -1, last year sucked. -1, Bill Self's health is a serious question. -1, Melvin Council was their best transfer ad this summer. -1, Houston has been owning us for 3 years. -1, Flory Badunga entered the transfer portal. Now we're at 0. +1, Badunga came back. +1, Hunter Dickinson's gone. +1, DeJuan Harris is gone. +1, KJ Adams is gone. +1, we're about to steal Tay Kinney. +1, Darren Peterson is the best player Bill Self has ever coached, per Bill Self. And then +1, Darren Peterson always posts videos of himself with Drake playing in the background. That lands us at 7. I think this
Can I
would
say?
be. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, can I say you to get up one more to 8 and match me with 8 for the vibes?
Oh, do you have one more reason? If you have a bullet point reason, maybe.
I mean, it's just like the phenomenon that is Cole Rosario. Reclass, he reclasses after blowing up late in the cycle. All the blue bloods are on him. Duke wanted him. Carolina wanted him. Kansas got him.
I'm staying
And
at 7. Cole's got to earn that from me. I'm staying at
okay.
7. But it was an emotional pitch, and I appreciate that. Now here's I look. I think if Kansas had serious national title hopes this year, you could talk me into a 10. Just a refresh, we feel good. But I do think Self's health is a huge storyline here. And I think in general, it's a real question to say, are we in the twilight of Bill Self's career? Like, is he going to get it back to a national championship caliber program or not? I don't know. This exact roster build has been a problem for a lot of teams. Put everything on the shoulders of an 18-year-old kid. We've seen that fail more often than we've seen that succeed.
Mhm.
Darren Peterson is special, though. And ultimately, it's going to be fun rooting for him. So I think it makes sense you land in the middle here where, like, vibes are vibes. We're fine. We're excited for the season. And it's a breath of fresh air to be away from some of those vets we didn't like watching. However, it can't be a 10 because you're just not at Houston's level right now. And
Mhm.
that's not the Kansas we know and love. And I think even Kansas fans would admit that. So I go with a 7, you go with an 8. Add it all together, we end with a 62 for Kansas. It puts them right in the middle of Duke and North Carolina, actually. And I won't spoil those numbers for anybody, but Kansas not far off in terms of overall state of the program of either Duke or North Carolina, according to our exercise. Does that feel right to you as we conclude this?
It does. I think when we're looking for this, I would say you want to be in the 60s. Like most teams, unless you're a bona fide top 3, top 5 program this year, you're probably going to be in the 60s, and that's a good bar to shoot for. So.
Yep, that sounds good to me as well. If you like this video, we have a bunch more of these up on the channel right now. Go check them out.